Hi and welcome to another video. This time I'll be talking about my 5 favourite James Bond villains, specifically in the movies between Dr. No of 1962 and Tomorrow Never Dies in 1997. Afterwards, my interest in the James Bond films weren't as strong. So my first favourite villain was Oddjob. Played by actor Harold Sakata in 1964's Goldfinger, directed by Guy Hamilton. In the movie, he was the henchman of the main villain, Goldfinger. What drew me to him and why he stood out was his weapon of choice, that being a razor-edged bowler hat that he can throw at targets with deadly accuracy. In a lot of films with bad guys, they are usually pretty generic, with a typical weapon like a gun, or they might be strong, but overall nothing noticeable. However, having a hat as a killing weapon was definitely unique. There is one scene where Oddjob throws his hat at a woman running away from him, which breaks her neck, killing her instantly. Oddjob is also physically strong, and this is demonstrated when he crushes a golf ball in his hand. He is more than an adequate fighter, which makes him a formidable opponent. Another noticeable trait for me was his total loyalty to Goldfinger, and the fact that he's willing to sacrifice his own life. For example, when James Bond and Oddjob are locked in a vault together with a bomb, he doesn't help James Bond to try and disarm it, but instead wants to kill 007. There would be other henchmen that would not go to that extreme if their boss is literally throwing them under a bus. I thought it was quite humorous that Oddjob would always smile every time he encounters Bond. Not having him talk also made him stand out as well. His death scene was great when he is electrocuted from a sparking wire while trying to retrieve his hat. Part of me felt it would have been great to see him in another movie. My second favourite villain was Max Zorin, played by Christopher Walken in the Bond film A View to a Kill, directed by John Glenn in 1985. I liked the backstory of Max in that he was the creation of a Nazi scientific medical experiment. Zorin, along with others, were born with superior IQs, but the drawback was that they all became dangerous psychotics. This is evident in Zorin's plan to detonate explosives beneath the lakes along the Hayward and San Andreas faults, which would cause them to flood and submerge Silicon Valley, potentially killing many people. He would then be able to be the sole microchip manufacturer. Zorin has no empathy. Even his own workforce are expendable, who he murders in cold blood with a machine gun inside a mine while laughing hysterically. Two other scenes that made him a sick and evil villain is ordering a KGB agent to be dropped down a pipe and into a spinning turbine, where he is chopped into pieces. As well as shooting the chief geologist at City Hall. He then tried to have James Bond and a woman burnt alive in an elevator. Walken played a mentally unhinged person very well, and this is why he makes it into my 5 favourite James Bond villains. My third favourite villain was Jaws, played by actor Richard Kiel, who appears in both The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker. Jaws first appears in The Spy Who Loved Me, released in 1977 and directed by Lewis Gilbert. He is another villain that was memorable for me because of his distinctive metal teeth and being over 7 foot tall, which could be quite intimidating to his opponents. The teeth are a great weapon in their own right, as they are obviously strong enough to kill a person or could be used to bite through obstacles, such as a chain lock on a door in the Spy Who Loved Me film. Jaws could be quite vicious, and this was shown in one scene where he slams a man against a stone pillar, killing him. As he is after the plans for a submarine tracking system. I didn't like how they made him eventually become a good guy towards the end of the next film, Moonraker, and the fact they threw in a girlfriend, love interest for him, which I found quite silly. My fourth favourite villain was Alec Trevelyan, played by Sean Bean in the 1995 film GoldenEye, directed by Martin Campbell. The reason why I quite liked this villain was that it was someone who was initially an agent, such as 007 of MI6. Usually the villains in these movies are either wealthy industrialists, or from Spectre, or someone outside of a government organisation. So it was refreshing to have a bad guy who was on the same level of James Bond in terms of having the skills, knowledge and training. I liked the look of Trevelyan later in the movie, being that part of his face is scarred due to an explosion after the initial mission that he and 007 took together to infiltrate a chemical warfare facility.
Alec? Back from the dead.
I also liked the true motive behind Alec being a more personal one. Ages ago, the British government deported his parents to Russia following World War II, where they were slaughtered under Stalin. Being very young at the time, Trevelyan was eventually recruited by England, and slowly he planned his revenge. The motive of a villain is typically money or domination. My fifth and final favourite villain is called Onatopp, who also appears in the 1995 movie GoldenEye. She works for Trevelyan as an assassin. Onatopp was a great villain due to being very attractive, which she could use to her advantage against men. But what distinguished her was that she used her thighs to crush her enemies to death through suffocation.
This time, Mr. Bond, the pleasure will be all mine.
Which is something that we haven't seen before in earlier Bond films from women. This is shown to us in a scene where she suffocates a ship captain to death. Apart from being extremely fit, I liked her intelligence in that she was a former pilot in the Soviet Air Force. At one point in the movie, she is able to steal and fly a helicopter. Her character is quite independent and can more than hold her own with a firearm and when it comes to fighting. Well, that brings to a close my 5 favourite James Bond villains. Thank you very much for listening and have a great day.